Okay. So good evening, friends. Today we are going to discuss 10 important topics from current affairs, and all these topics are from science and technology portion. So the topics that we are going to cover today are very important for the prelims examination because I have already, shortlisted most important topics for this year's exam. So without wasting much time, let us start the topics. Okay, I'll be sharing a screen of my laptop, and then we'll discuss about the topics that we are going to discuss today. Okay, so during the session, if you have any doubt, you can raise your hand, okay, directly, and then you can ask your query through the chat option over there because I'm not putting the earphone so that like I won't be able to hear. Okay, any doubt, you can simply raise your hand and then you can type on the screen. Okay, so now you can type on the chat box. Okay, so now I'm starting the discussion for the day. Just allow me a minute. Okay, so today we are going to cover these 10 topics from current affairs. Okay, these 10 topics are this Big Bang nucleosynthesis. Second topic is Van Allen radiation belt. Third topic we will cover is Phobos. Fourth topic is Mission Hope. Fifth topic that we will cover is dwarf planet Ceres. Okay, then Sunrise mission. Then we will look into quadrilateral security dialogue. Then we will understand Operation Sanjeevani. Then we will learn about RT-PCR test, and finally we will look into the sonic boom. Okay, so these are the topics that we will understand today. So let us learn the first topic. Okay, Big Bang nucleosynthesis. What do we mean by nucleosynthesis? We will understand that thing and how it is associated with the Big Bang theory. Okay, so these are the things that we are going to look into this topic. So it is the leading explanation about how the universe began. Means like this Big Bang nucleosynthesis, it is one of the leading explanation about how the universe has started. Okay, at its simplest, it says that the universe started with a small singularity and then inflated over the next 13.8 billion years to the cosmos that is currently observed. Okay, so they say that the universe started with a small singularity and then slowly and gradually it expanded. Okay, and expanded to an extent that that we can see the cosmos that are that is there. So it is the production of nuclei other than those of the lightest isotope of hydrogen during the early phases of the universe. What is this? The nucleosynthesis. Okay, so here this particular line talks about nucleosynthesis. So nucleosynthesis, it is the production of nuclei other than those of the lightest isotope of hydrogen during the early phases of the universe. Okay, this is the thing. Now, if we talk about primordial nucleosynthesis, primordial means like when the atmosphere just started, when the not atmosphere, when the universe has started the thing. So this is primordial nucleosynthesis. So they are talking about very early phases of nucleosynthesis. Okay, so primordial nucleosynthesis is believed by most cosmologists to have taken place in the interval from roughly 10 seconds to 20 minutes after the Big Bang. So once the Big Bang has happened, so between 10 seconds to 20 minutes, okay, so during this time period, primordial nucleosynthesis has happened. Okay, the universe's light element abundance is another important criterion by which this theory is verified. Okay, so this theory is verified by the fact that the universe's light element abundance. Okay, just a minute. Okay, so the universe's light element abundance is another important criterion by which this theory is verified. It is now known that the elements observed in the universe were created in either of the two ways. Okay, so the elements that are present in the universe were created in either of the two ways. What are those two ways? One of the ways is light elements. They are talking about how the light elements were created. So light elements, namely deuterium, helium, and lithium. These are the light elements. Okay, so light elements are deuterium, helium, and lithium were produced in the first few minutes of the Big Bang. Okay, so these lighter elements were produced in the first few minutes of the Big Bang, and that is especially talks about the nucleosynthesis. Then elements heavier than helium are thought to have their origin in the interiors of the stars which formed much later in the history of the universe. Okay, so lighter elements have formed within first few minutes of the Big Bang. Big Bang means like big explosion, okay, that has happened. So light elements were created in the first few minutes, and then heavier elements were created thereafter. Okay, and they have their origin, from the interiors of the stars. Okay, and this theory predicts that roughly 25% of the mass of the universe consists of helium. Helium means like lighter elements. Okay, lighter elements were formed in the first few minutes. Okay, they were formed in the first few minutes of the new Big Bang. It also predicts that about 0.01% of deuterium. Deuterium is again a lighter element. Okay, and even smaller quantities of lithium. So they are saying that the quantity of lithium, okay, so quantity of lithium and deuterium are roughly of 0.01%, and about 25% of the mass of the universe consists of helium. So the thing is, all the three elements like deuterium, helium and lithium, they are lighter elements, and they are, they are formed just after few minutes of Big Bang. So all these things are postulated, all these things are propagated by the nucleosynthesis theory of Big Bang. So it is Big Bang nucleosynthesis. Okay. So having learned the first topic, let us move to the next topic. Next topic is we are going to understand about Van Allen radiation belt. Okay. We are going to learn about Van Allen radiation belt. So this is the second topic. So let us learn what do we mean by Van Allen radiation belt. Okay. So the thing is, this is, so if you see this particular image, okay, in this particular image, you can see at the middle over here. So we can see, so this is the image of the Earth, and around Earth we can see some, some lines over here. Okay, these are known as magnetic field lines. What are these lines? These are known as magnetic field lines. So the thing is, Earth acts as a magnet. Okay, Earth acts as a magnet in the universe. Okay, so Earth has some magnetic field lines around it. Okay, these magnetic field lines constitute something which is known as magnetosphere. So magnetosphere is the area around the Earth, right, in the outer portion of the Earth, where the magnetic strength of magnetic field lines can be experienced. So this is magnetosphere. So here we have understood magnetosphere, and these are known as magnetic field lines. Okay, magnetic field lines originate from the North Pole, and they, enter into the South Pole of a magnet. Okay, so when Earth acts as a magnet, so here, the magnetic field lines are originating from the North Pole, and they are going into the South Pole. So it generally happens in magnets. So we do have, magneto tail also. So like we will talk about geotail later on in subsequent discussions. So the thing is, when solar wind is coming over here, so they have high charge particles. So these charge particles are blocked by, by magnetosphere that is present around the Earth surface. So we will learn about in this context what do we mean by Van Allen belts, and we will also talk about where they are present. Okay, so at what altitude, right, at what height from the surface of the Earth can be experienced the Van Allen belt. So we are going to understand this topic now. Okay, so let us learn about Van Allen radiation belt. Okay, Van Allen radiation belt is a zone of energetic charge particles. Okay, it is a zone of energetic charge particles, most of which originate from the solar wind. Okay, so the thing is, the energetic charge particles are originating from the solar wind that are captured and held around a planet by that planet's magnetic field. Okay, so the thing is, it is a zone of energetic charge particles, most of which originate from the solar wind that are captured and held around a planet by that planet's magnetic field. So these are the charged particles, okay, that are initially originating from the sun, but they are held together. Okay, they are captured by a particular planet's magnetic field. So this is where Van Allen radiation belt. So the thing is, do Earth have Van Allen radiation belt? Yes, Earth has two such belts. Okay, so the thing is, Earth has two Van Allen radiation belts. Okay, it is an important information for you to remember. Earth has two such belts, and sometimes others may be temporarily created. Okay, and then The discovery of the belt is credited to James Van Allen. Okay, so the discovery of this particular belt was done by James Van Allen. As a result, Earth's belts are known as Van Allen belts. Okay, so that's why the Earth's radiation belts are known as Van Allen belt. Okay, so Earth's two main belts extend from an altitude of about 640 to 58,000 kilometer. Okay, so it is around 400 to 36,040 miles above the surface of the Earth. Okay, and if we talk about what are the features of the Van Allen belt, so we are now going to discuss about the feature of the Van Allen belt. Okay, so the thing is, first feature is most of the particles that form the belts are thought to come from the solar wind and other particles by cosmic rays. So most of the particles that comprises of this particular belt comes from the solar wind, and some other particles comes from the cosmic rays. Okay, rays that are traveling in the cosmosphere, like in the in the universe. So this is the thing. This is one of the notable feature of the Van Allen radiation belt. Second thing is, by tapping the solar wind, the magnetic field deflects those electromagnetic particles and protects the atmosphere from destruction. Okay, so what it does, uh, what the magnetosphere of a particular planet does, so it taps the solar wind. Okay, and then the magnetic field deflects those energetic particles and protects the atmosphere from destruction. If we do not have a magnetic field, so in that case, these charged particles will directly come into the Earth's surface, and they may destruct the life that is there on the surface. So this magnetosphere plays a very important role, that that traps these like solar radiations, and they deflect also. Then next notable feature is the belts are located in the inner region of the Earth's magnetosphere. Okay, so these belts are located in the inner region of the Earth's magnetosphere. The belts trap energetic electrons and protons. Okay, these belts trap energetic electrons and protons. Then other nuclei such as alpha particles are less prevalent. Okay, alpha particles are less prevalent there, but the thing is, charged electrons and protons are available there in heavy quantity. Okay, then the belts endangered satellites, which must have their sensitive components protected with adequate shielding if they spend significant time near that zone. It simply says that, like, if we do have some satellites, okay, in that magnetosphere, or in the like magnetic field around that around Earth, so those satellites must have protective equipments to protect the smaller components that may get affected because of the these solar wind radiations. Okay, the charged electrons and protons. So this is all about Van Allen radiation belt. So once again, what are these belts? These are a zone of energetic charged particles, and most of these charged particles are originating from the sun. Okay, solar like they are originating from the solar wind. Some of them are coming. Some of them are cosmic rays. And then Earth has two such belts. There may be other belts also. They are temporarily created and destroyed, but prominent two belts are there around Earth. So these belts have been discovered by James Van Allen, and these belts exist in the altitude of 640 to 58,000 kilometers above the surface of the Earth. And we have seen the notable features of the Van Allen radiation belts. Okay, so these belts trap energetic electrons and protons. Alpha particles are also there, but they are present in very smaller quantity. Okay, now let us move to the third topic. Third topic is about Phobos. So we will learn about Phobos. Okay, so what is Phobos? Phobos is the innermost and larger of the two natural satellites of Mars. Okay, so Mars has two natural satellites. Natural satellites are moons. Okay, like if we talk about Earth has a moon. Okay, that revolves around Earth. Similarly, Mars has two moons. Okay, one of those moon is known as Phobos. The second moon is known as Deimos. Okay, so this Phobos, if we talk about Phobos, this is the first moon. Okay, this is the first moon of Mars. And if we talk about Deimos, this is the second moon of the Mars. And Phobos is the innermost. Innermost simply means, let's consider Mars is there. Okay, around that Mars there will be a Phobos, which is a natural satellite of Mars. So it is revolving around that Mars at a very lesser height from the surface of the Mars. Then if you talk about Deimos, so it revolves around that, you know, Mars at a like, you know, at a higher distance from the surface of the Mars. So Mars has two natural satellites. One of the satellite is Phobos. Second satellite is Deimos. Okay. Then both the moons were discovered in 1877 by American astronomer S.F. Hall. Okay. So both these moons were discovered in 1877 by an American astronomer whose name is Asaph Hall. Okay, so it is not that important. Now, if we talk about the Phobos, Phobos is very small. Okay, so it is small in size, but like it is bigger than Deimos. This is important. Okay, so Phobos is a small and irregularly shaped object with a mean radius of about 11 kilometer. So it has a mean radius of about 11 kilometer and is 7 times as massive as the outer moon Deimos. Okay, so it is 7 times heavier than the outer moon, which is Deimos. Okay, then it is largely believed to be made up of carbonaceous than chondrites. Okay, it is largely made up of this particular, you know, this particular element, which is carbonaceous, like chondrites. Okay, then it is so close that it orbits Mars much faster than the Mars rotates. Okay, so it is so close to the Mars that the orbital speed of this particular moon Phobos is higher than the, you know, speed of rotation of the Mars. So like, as you know, Earth rotates around its axis. Similarly, Earth revolves around the sun. So Mars also rotates around its axis. But you know, the Phobos, when we talk about the moon Phobos of Mars, so it revolves around Mars at a faster speed than the rotation speed of Mars. Okay, okay, and completes an orbit in just 7 hours and 39 minutes. Okay, recently Mars color camera, okay, the Mars color camera on board ISRO's Mars orbiter mission has captured the image of Phobos, the closest and biggest of the two Mars. Okay, so this particular instrument, which is the Mars color camera, okay, which was on board on ISRO's Mars orbiter mission, MOM. Okay, so they have captured the image. It has captured the image of Phobos. Okay, so this is the thing. So this is all about this particular topic. So what we understood from here, that Phobos is like one of the moon of Mars. Second moon of Mars is Deimos. Phobos is much closer to the surface of the Mars, and it's like it revolves around Mars at a speed much higher than the rotation speed of Mars. Okay, and this is 8 times heavier than the Deimos, which is the second moon of the Mars. And the image of Phobos was captured by one instrument which is known as the Mars color camera. This instrument was on board the Mars orbiter mission of you know, ISRO. So this is all about this topic. Let us move to the fourth topic. Fourth topic for the day is Mission Hope. So we will understand about Mission Hope now. Okay, so let us see what is Mission Hope. So Mission Hope is also associated with Mars. Okay, so the United Arab Emirates, UAE's first mission to Mars, which is named as Hope, was recently launched successfully from Japan's Tanegashima Space Center. Okay, so this is like Mission Hope is a mission of the United Arab Emirates, UAE, and it is their first mission to Mars. Okay, and it was launched from one of the space center of Japan. Okay, so name of the space center is given over here. Okay, and the thing is, what is the aim of Mission Hope? It has a aim of creating mankind's first integrated model of red planet's atmosphere. Okay, Mars is also known as red planet. So it has a aim of creating mankind's first integrated model of the red planet's atmosphere. Now it is the Arab world's first mission to Mars and also first interplanetary mission. Okay, it is the Arab world's, not the not globally. Okay, if we talk about Arab worlds, if we talk about, you know, those Gulf countries, right? United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Oman, like Qatar, Bahrain, okay, like Kuwait. If we talk about those countries, so like it is the Mission Hope is the first mission to Mars of the Arab world, and it is their first interplanetary mission. First interplanetary means, like, you know, this mission goes out of the surface of the Earth. It goes, you know, it studies another planet, which is planet Mars. Okay, then they have a probe also. It is known as Al Amal probe. Okay, Al Amal probe. as it is called in Arabic, is expected to reach Mars by February 2021. Okay, and this mission Hope will carry the following scientific instruments mounted on one side of the spacecraft. What are those instruments? It will carry high resolution camera called Emirates Exploration Imager. Okay, then far UV imaging spectrograph called Emirates Mars Ultraviolet Spectrometer. Okay, EMUS, and the Emirates Mars Infrared Spectrometer. Okay, spectrometer, EMIRS, and FTIR scanning spectrometer. So these are not that important. It is important to understand that Mission Hope is a mission of United Arab Emirates, and this is the first such mission from the Arab world. Okay, this is first such interplanetary mission. Okay, and they want to create mankind's first integrated model of the red planet's atmosphere. Okay, so like they want to study and make a model of the red planet's atmosphere. Now let us move to the next topic for the day, which is topic number 5. So we will understand about dwarf planet Ceres. Okay, we will understand about dwarf planet Ceres. So Ceres is a dwarf planet, and it is the largest celestial object in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. Okay, so Ceres is a dwarf planet, and it is the largest celestial object in the asteroid belt between Mars and orbiter. Okay, so this, it is important that Ceres is a dwarf planet, means like it is a small planet, and it is the largest celestial object in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. Okay, and if we talk about other important information, it has a diameter of about 950 kilometer, which is more than 1/4 of the Earth's moon. Okay, so the thing is, effectively, the size of Ceres is very small as compared to moon, and its diameter is 1/4, just little greater than the 1/4 of the moon. Okay, and scientists have recently found that it is said to have salty water underground by observing the cracks created to form a crater. Okay, so this dwarf planet Ceres has a crater also. Crater. Okay, it is named as Occator. Okay, name of the crater is Occator, and it has a salty water underground. That's why the scientists have given Ceres the status of an ocean world. Okay, scientists have given Ceres the status of an ocean world. Means like Ceres is a dwarf planet, but scientists have named it as ocean world, as it has a big reservoir of salty water underneath its frigid surface. Okay, this is the thing. Now let us move to the next topic, which is Sunrise mission. We will understand about Sunrise mission. Okay, so Sunrise mission. Okay, US Space Agency, okay, which is like National Aeronautics and Space Administration, NASA. So in India, we have a space agency which is known as Indian Space Research Organization. Similarly, the United States of America has a space agency which is named as National Aeronautics and Space Administration. It has announced that it has selected a new mission, Sunrise, to study the giant particle storms. Okay, giant solar particle storms. So the thing is, they have selected a new mission, Sunrise, to study giant solar particle storms. So they want to study giant solar particle storms. Okay, and this is known as Sunrise mission. And which agency has announced this mission? NASA, National Aeronautics and Space Administration. It is a space agency of the United States of America. Okay, so the Sun Radio Interferometer Space Experiment. Okay, so this is the full form of this particular experiment, which is okay. So full form, I'll be just highlighting it for you. Okay, so it is known as the Sun Radio Interferometer Space Experiment. Sunrise will look into how Sun generates and releases the giant weather storms known as solar particle storms into space. Okay, so they will look. This Sunrise mission will look into how Sun generates and releases the giant weather storms known as solar particle storms into this space. Okay, the mission will help in greater understanding of the solar system. Okay, so what this mission will do? The mission will help in greater understanding of the solar system. Then the findings would safeguard astronauts from solar storms while they travel to Mars and Moon. Okay, the findings would safeguard astronauts from solar storms while they travel to Mars or the Moons. So this is the this is how this particular Sunrise mission will be beneficial to the humankind. NASA's Parker Solar Probe will be the first ever mission to touch the sun. Okay, so the thing is, NASA's Parker Solar Probe will be the first ever mission to touch the sun. So I hope you understood Sunrise mission. This mission has been launched by NASA. Then what is the objective? They want to study, okay, they want to study the giant solar particle storms. Like they want to study the, solar storms, solar particle storms, okay, and how it is going to help the humankind. It is going to help, the astronauts to be safer when they travel to Mars or to Moon. Okay, so this is all about the Sunrise mission. Now let us move to the next topic for the day, which is quadrilateral security dialogue. Okay, in short, it is known as Quad. Okay, so next topic for the day is quadrilateral security dialogue. In short, it is known as Quad, and it is an informal strategic forum between the United States of America, Japan, India, and Australia. So these are the four countries. Okay, United States of America, second is Japan, third is India, then fourth is Australia. These are the four countries that are part of quadrilateral. Quad means four. Okay, so quadrilateral security dialogue. So it is a, security dialogue between these four member countries. It is maintained by semi-regular summits. So they do not have regular summits. They have semi-regular summits, informal exchanges, and military drills between member countries. The dialogue was paralleled by joint military exercise of an unprecedented scale titled as Exercise Malabar. Okay, how Exercise Malabar is connected with Quad? It simply means like Exercise Malabar was conducted by these countries, and then like during the conduction of Exercise Malabar, they had that, the summit of quadrilateral security dialogue. So they have four members: United States of America, Japan, India, and Australia. These are the four member countries of this thing. The diplomatic and military arrangement was widely viewed as a response to increased Chinese economic and military power. So this is all you have to remember. You just need to remember that it is a security dialogue between four member countries. Okay, that's why it is known as quadrilateral security dialogue. So the four member countries are United States of America, Japan, India, and Australia. Okay. Now let us learn about Operation Sanjeevani. Okay. Next topic that we will learn is Operation Sanjeevani. Okay. Recently it was in news. Okay. So under Operation Sanjeevani, an Indian Air Force, okay, Indian Air Force C-130J transport aircraft. Okay, C-130J is the, this is the number of that particular aircraft. Okay, delivered 6.2 tons of essential medicines and hospital consumables to Maldives. Okay, so the thing is, Operation Sanjeevani means like, they have carried some medicines from India to Maldives. It was taken from India to Maldives by Indian Air Force, a transport aircraft. Okay, an aircraft of the Indian Air Force. Okay, so it was taken by an aircraft of Indian Air Force to Maldives. So that's why it is named as Operation Sanjeevani. Why it was necessary for Indian Air Force to carry these things? Because during the COVID-19 situation, what has happened? We have observed nationwide lockdown. So during the lockdown, we the other modes of transportation was effectively closed in India. So Maldives government needed some help from India, so they have requested India to send these medicines. Okay, so the thing is, since all other modes of transport were in a closure, so that's why Indian Air Force has taken the initiative of taking these medicines from different places in India, like New Delhi, Mumbai, okay, like Chennai, Bengaluru, okay, so like New Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai, and Madurai. Okay, so they have taken medicines from these places and they have delivered it to Maldives. So this is known as Operation Sanjeevani. Okay, Sanjeevani. Among other things, these medicines include influenza vaccine, antiviral drugs such as lopinavir and ritonavir, which have been used to treat patients with COVID-19 in other countries. Okay, so this is all about Operation Sanjeevani. I hope you understood. Operation Sanjeevani means like here, like Indian government has delivered some essential medicines to Maldives by taking the help of Indian Air Force transport aircraft. Okay, they have delivered the medicines, and these medicines are effective against COVID-19. Okay, this is the thing. Now let us move to the ninth topic for the day. Ninth topic is we are going to learn about RT-PCR test. It was recently in news, okay, RT-PCR test. So in an RT-PCR test, a nasal or throat swab, okay, a nasal or throat swab is taken from a patient suspected of having the disease, having coronavirus, okay. So in an RT-PCR test, what they take, they collect samples from the nasal or throat, or like from the throat or nasal passage, okay. They collect samples from there and they conduct RT-PCR test to check if the patient actually has COVID-19, if the patient is COVID-19 positive patient, or like that patient is COVID-19 negative patient. This is the thing. Okay. So the test involves extracting RNA. It is very important. Okay. So the thing is, COVID-19 is an RNA virus. Okay. It is not a DNA virus. It is very important that the test involves extracting RNA or ribonucleic acid, okay, which is the genetic material of the virus. Okay. So like ribonucleic acid is the genetic material of the coronavirus, and checking it, checking if it shares the same genetic sequence as SARS-CoV-2 virus. It simply means during an RT-PCR test, the doctors or the health professionals collect samples from the nasal or throat passage, and they conduct the they conduct RT-PCR test, and they try to like correlate the samples. Like if they match, if the the samples that were collected from the patient matches with the coronavirus, like coronavirus that RNA, okay, RNA sequencing or not. If it matches, then they will say that that particular patient is COVID positive patient. If it does not match, then they will say that patient is COVID negative patient. Okay. So the thing is, and this RT-PCR test is considered as the gold standard in detecting the virus. Okay. So the thing is, RT-PCR test is widely used in India and globally to check if someone is COVID positive or not. This is the thing. Okay. If we talk about the current RT-PCR technology, the current RT-PCR technology requires RNA extracting machines, a specialized laboratory, and trained technicians. Okay. And the tests are done in batches, and it can take up to 4 hours to identify, test for the presence of a virus, to confidently test for the presence of the virus. Okay. So what we understood, RT-PCR test is conducted to check if a patient is COVID-19 positive patient or not. What they do, they collect samples from throat or nasal passage. Okay. Then they match it with the samples of the virus. Okay. If the samples of the patient matches with the the RNA sequence of the virus, then they will say that like this patient is COVID-19 positive patient. Otherwise, they will say that it is the patient is not COVID-19 positive patient. Then RT-PCR test is regarded as gold standard in detecting the virus. Okay. Then it can take up to 4 hours to confidently test the presence of the COVID-19 virus in a particular patient. Okay. So this is all about the RT-PCR test. Now let us move to the next topic, which is sonic boom. We are going to understand the last topic for the day, which is sonic boom. So we will understand what do we mean by sonic. Okay. Sonic means something which is related to sound. Boom means a sound. Okay. A sound of explosion. So sonic boom means like, a kind of explosion sound that is associated with, the speed of sound and all. So what is sonic boom? We are going to understand now. Okay. Sonic booms are shock waves that are produced by planes or other objects that are flying at a speed equal to or greater than the speed of the sound. Okay. Those planes or other objects that are traveling at a speed greater than the speed of sound or equal to the speed of sound, they may produce some sound. Okay. Those planes may produce some sound noise that are known as sonic boom. Okay. So the thing is, you need to understand that sound travels at different speeds in different medium. Okay. The speed of propagation of sound in like in air or atmosphere is higher. Okay. So it is around 314 some like meter per second in air. If we talk about the speed of sound in water, the speed of sound in water is much higher as compared to the speed of sound in air. It travels at a much higher speed if, in aluminum and in other metal objects. So the thing is, the speed of sound varies according to the medium in which they propagate. Okay. So the thing is, when aircraft is, you know, like when a plane is moving in the atmosphere, so they may move like equal to the speed of sound. They may move faster than the speed of sound. If they move faster than the speed of sound, then they will produce some, you know, a sound which is known as sonic boom. Okay. So the thing is, now let us understand, when an airplane travels through the air, it produces sound waves. Okay. When an airplane travels through air, it produces sound waves. If the plane is traveling slower than the speed of sound, then the sound waves can propagate ahead of the plane. It simply means, if the plane is traveling slower than the you know, speed of sound, then in that case what will happen, the sound waves will travel faster. Okay. And if the planes are moving faster than the sound wave, then what will happen, the planes will generate some kind of waves. Those waves will create you know, sound which is known as sonic boom. Okay. If the plane breaks the sound barrier, okay, if the plane breaks the sound barrier and flies faster than the speed of sound, it produces sonic boom when it flies past. Okay. Then there are several factors that can influence sonic booms. What are the factors that can influence sonic booms? It is weight, size, shape of the aircraft or vehicle, plus the altitude, latitude, and okay, latitude and flight path, and weather or atmospheric conditions. Okay. So these are the things. Okay. These are the things on which, you know, the sonic booms depend. So there are several factors that affect the sonic booms. They are weight of the aircraft, size of the aircraft, shape of the aircraft, okay, plus the altitude on which this particular aircraft is traveling, the latitude, okay, in which it is flowing, then the flight path, and weather or atmospheric conditions. These are the factors that actually affect the sonic boom. In the direction of the travel and strength of the shock waves are influenced by wind, speed and direction, as well as by air temperature and pressure, etc. So this is all about sonic boom. I hope you understood what do we mean by sonic boom. Okay, sonic booms are shock waves that are produced by planes or other objects when they fly, okay, at a speed equal to or greater than the sound speed of sound. Okay, so this is all about like today's topic. Anyone of you having any question, you are free to ask me your questions. I'll try to answer your queries. Okay. So I have hardly 1 minute. So like, you know, within 1 minute the discussion may get terminated.